Good morning. Welcome to your program, Agenda, here on Cignal TV's One News, channels 8 and 250. I'm your host, Cito Beltran, thanking you for joining us this morning and, of course, for being Cignal TV subscribers. For those of you who watch Agenda via Facebook and on YouTube, as well as the Cignal Play app. Thank you also to PLDT for their home fiber optic internet system, which allows us to air in different parts of the country when traveling. Please promote Cignal TV to your friends so more people can watch Agenda, as well as the many other offerings, channels, and programs made available by Cignal TV. Sa inyo pong mga nasa probinsya, magandang umaga. It is December 15, 2023. Friday, Biyernes na po, and depending on your time zone, your region, it's either 9, 10, or 11 days to Christmas. So get ready, and may I remind all of you, watch your diet. And speaking of diets, let's remove the T from the diet. You come up with die. There are people who might die during the holidays from exhaustion, from fatigue, from stress, from overeating, hypertension, etc. So do listen to our topic today, because it will be about a program and a company that has spent years trying to save lives, offering knowledge, training, etc., and emergency services in the Philippines, particularly Metro Manila and the outskirts. We will be speaking to our friend, Mr. Michael Deakin of Lifeline. I don't know if they're still called Lifeline. Basta ako, 16911. That's all you have to remember. So anyway, today we're going to talk about a special program near and dear to my heart, because I have seen people who have collapsed. I have seen people do CPR. I have seen people who save lives because of emergency medical treatment or resuscitation. So we'll talk about all of that this morning. But before that, let's go through our usual setup, which starts with the Daily Starter. And the Daily Starter is, never judge people by their past. Wag lang kayong judgmental, wag kayong presumptuous. People learn, people change, people move on. Okay? And I have encountered this so many times. There are so many of us who do not upgrade our OS, operating, yung iOS, intelligence operating system. We always, we always refer to someone based on what we remember, what they did to us, or how they used to behave in college or when they were much younger. You know, the Cito Beltran of today is a much different Cito Beltran when I was in high school, college, or when I was in my 20s. So please, when you see your friends this Christmas, these holidays, remember, instead of talking to them like nothing has changed, ask them the question. I saw this in a animation called Leo, where Leo, the chameleon, told the young girl, ask your friends questions. That way, they will like you because you're showing you're interested in them. Okay, let's go to our front page review of today's edition of the Philippine Star, December 15, 2023. And the headline, Robin revives Chacha for extension of terms for president, vice president, and lawmakers. Another charter change initiative has come to life, this time on political provisions, specifically on term extension for elected officials, including President and Vice President. Now, may I just editorialize here, if you would? Mag-ingat po tayo because apparently there seems to be a coordinated announcement, whether intentional or not, nagkasabay. Congress declares their interest to pursue Chacha or constitutional revisions, and then the Senate follows up. This is during the time when Senator Coco Pimentel raised the issue of 400 plus billion pesos insertion. Unplanned, kumbaga, hindi pinag-usapang insertions in the national budget. And of course, may tawag dyan sa public relations. It is the catfish move. When you create a lot of confusion, when you muddle things up, so people don't focus on the right thing. So, yun lang po, no? That is just my 2 cents worth because this Chacha revival suspiciously timed. Anyway, at the top of the front page, Philippines, US, Japan to boost maritime defense capabilities, while President Bongbong Marcos is currently in Tokyo today for a summit. President Marcos will be attending or is attending the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Japan Commemorative Summit, where he is expected to reaffirm the Philippines' relations with Japan on security and economic issues. Okay. Meanwhile, Bersamin tells UN Philippines actively promoting human rights. Okay. The Philippines is actively promoting human rights with democratic institutions that remain strong and dispense justice without fear or discrimination. Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin made the assertion as he represented the Philippines in the commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights at the Palais des Nations in Switzerland. Okay. Meanwhile, I missed this, but here goes. On the upper left corner of the Philippine Star, 180 illegal Chinese pogo workers deported. Finally, kasi marami po tayong pinapalamon na mga detainees courtesy of the Bureau of Immigration who are detained for various acts of various illegal crimes. Okay, or crimes. Meanwhile, Philippines secures loss and damage fund board seat. Kakaiba ito, no? The Philippines has secured a seat on the loss and damage fund board, which was created to compensate nations most affected by climate change-induced disasters. The Loss and Damage Fund was a major outcome of COP27 or the 2022 UN Climate Change Conference held in Egypt. Meanwhile, impact of war, the center photo of the Philippine Star, impact of war shuts down Bethlehem, the birthplace of Jesus. Yan pong photo na yan is a modern translation of how the nativity would look like if the child Jesus was born today. Okay. Bethlehem is normally at its busiest at Christmas, but this year war has scared away tourists and pilgrims from the Palestinian town in the Israeli-occupied West Bank, leaving hotels, restaurants, and souvenir shops deserted. So, yun po, hindi man lang sila makakakanta ng Silent Night because puro putukan. Meanwhile, Speaking of putukan, government transport groups in standoff over consolidation deadline. The government and transport workers continue to be at a standoff as the two-day transport strike continues today despite a lengthy dialogue with officials of the LTFRB. Okay, so ang tanong, ang utos ng hari, pwede bang mabali? BBM already said, no extension, the show must go on. Meanwhile, as a result of that, commuters wait for buses on Commonwealth Avenue in Quezon City during a jeepney strike initiated by the group Piston. Ang pinarusahan, mananakay, hindi po ang pamahalaan. Simbang gabi, it's the mass, not the time. With the start of the Simbang Gabi or Dawn Masses on Saturday, Lingayen Dagupan Archbishop Socrates Villegas reminded the Catholic faithful that the most important component of the 9-day Novena Mass is the Mass itself and not the time of the Mass. Okay, paalala lang naman po yun. Last but not the least, larger-than-life Christmas wonder at Robinson's Malls. The holiday festivities are a lot brighter and more fun at Robinson's Magnolia greets customers with 2 towering and dazzling Christmas reindeers illuminating the central garden. Ayun po, talagang nasa mall na lahat ng Christmas display. That's it for our review of the Philippine Star today, December 15, 2023. And now we go for a break. And when we return, we will start talking about our subject for today. Okay, let's go for a break.
In efforts to improve the medical emergency protocols in the country, senators have filed bills aiming to ensure fast and reliable emergency response in the country. Senator Raffy Tulfo filed Senate Bill No. 1882, or the Critical Infrastructure Emergency Response Act. Under this bill, an emergency service provider must respond for requests within 2 hours. Meanwhile, in Senator J.V. Ejercito's Senate Bill No. 1973, or the Emergency Medical Services System Act, the country will institutionalize an emergency medical service system to establish a national standard for emergency medical services. Ejercito explained in the bill that it will be useful in times of natural and man-made disasters. These 2 bills, however, are still pending in the Senate committee level. This is where private services like Lifeline 16911 steps in to provide the needs of the Filipino public. How can the private sector help bridge the gap in medical emergency infrastructure and protocols? Let's discuss this on today's agenda.
Michael Deakin is the president and CEO of Lifeline 16911 Medical Incorporated, one of the largest medical response providers in the Philippines. Deakin oversees the company's various thrusts such as emergency response, EMS company, EMS academy, and Lifeline clinics.
Good morning, Michael. Welcome to the program agenda.
Good morning, Cito. Thank you for having me.
Okay, let's get on with our conversation this morning. And of course, it would help if you could give us a catch up on what's been going on with Lifeline. I mean, you guys started out as an ambulance, emergency ambulance provider, and then it was an emergency response and with a nurse or etc. I think you even came up during the COVID or when all the traffic hell broke loose. You had teams on motorcycles. And last I remember you were talking to us about this gadget, or I don't think a gadget is the appropriate term, this machine, this portable machine to have around the house or the vehicle for people who have a cardiac arrest. Now, what's up with 16911 or Lifeline nowadays?
We're still growing. Still getting busier every day. So we're doing about currently almost 100 emergencies a day, which are life and death in Metro Manila, and that's only scratching the surface.
100 plus a day in Metro Manila, life and death emergencies.
Yes, and that's just scratching the surface.
Okay, just so people get an idea, Michael, what sort of emergencies are these? Because people my age, we just assume, oh, somebody had a heart attack or somebody had a ruptured vein or whatever. But over the whole 100 cases, what were the prevalent medical concerns?
We have a simple saying in EMS: air goes in and out, blood goes round and round. Any disruption to that is an emergency. So that's the short version.
But what were they? Heart attacks, aneurysm?
For our age up, 50 upwards, it's mainly heart attacks and strokes. We're going into that area, diabetic emergencies. For the younger, the ages between 20 and 30 or 20 and 40, the highest rates of trauma, car accidents, falls, more injuries. So areas, for instance, like Mall of Asia, we will have a high rate of accidents in the range of about the 30 to 40 bracket, mainly trauma. Same with BGC. It's mainly incidents of pedestrian versus car versus pedestrians. So we can predict it within an area what's going to happen based on the demographics. So again, out of the 100 emergencies a day, 30 of that would be trauma, 70% would be illness, heart attack or stroke.
Yeah, I've noticed that, I have seen your teams even on the expressways.
Yes.
How prevalent are the accidents or emergencies along the expressways?
We're only going to talk about the accidents resulting in an ambulance being required, okay? Because on the statistics of how many motor accidents, I don't have that.
Yeah.
But on the South Expressway, it's twice a day. That's between Batangas and to the end of the Skyway. In the north, in the NLEX and ETSITEX, it's up to 5 to 6 times a day. That's required. An ambulance is required to be pulling out a patient from a car wreck or a bus accident.
Primarily because it's longer.
It's longer at high speed. The impact is at high speed. In the south, it's mainly traffic, and there's only short bursts of speed. So less death, higher death rate in the North Expressway.
Okay, what about for minors or for children? Because in the U.S., I know that many of the 911 calls are poisoning, a child swallows a foreign object, etc. In the Philippines, do you get a lot of calls concerning young adults, and what are they usually associated with?
For young adults, there is the poisoning, the standard snake bites, and other poisonous creatures. But the biggest one that we're experiencing more often is now drugs. Drugs, alcohol-related accidents within that age bracket.
Okay, so they're like
They're just young
partying, or overdosing on drugs.
It's a mixture of the both. It's also coming out of COVID, out of lockdowns. So it's more of when the surge, when they were let loose, there was a higher rate of more accidents were happening because they weren't used to socializing as much, doing as much. It's started to correct already at the end of this year.
Okay, we're coming into the Christmas holidays. Parties have started. I don't know if you're the sort of fellow who's going to go, oh, yummy, we're going to have more customers. I don't think you're that type of person. What is your is it dread and trepidation that you are preparing for the worst in during the holidays, and what are you expecting?
We're expecting a lot of emergencies coming to do with the more. It's going to be heart and stroke emergencies and diabetes. So we're positioning a lot of the equipment and the ambulances in the homes, in the villages around Metro Manila. We'll move that to the malls, after Christmas, when they're less around the residential, more around the commercial. So we move it around depending on where the clientele will go. When it comes to Christmas, surprisingly, worldwide, accidents are under increase. In the Philippines, it's actually reverse. The accidents are less when it comes to the Christmas period. We're more, I guess, conscious about being with our family, safer on the roads. We do tend to watch what we eat, but where it surges is in January, the first 2 weeks in January. There's a big spike in emergencies. A lot of them is going back to the gym, so a lot more heart attacks in that area. Or they come out from sedentary for a month and then hit the gym hard, or go on their resolutions too quickly, and that's where we come in. So Christmas will actually be a little quieter.
That's why I love talking to you, Michael. You change everything, because I was assuming worse is going to happen over the Christmas parties, and you're telling us where most of us are going to kill ourselves. Some of us are going to kill ourselves because we are repenting from our overindulgence during Christmas. So,
Exactly.
having said that, I know that you put up training facilities, like training program, education on emergency medical response. What is the latest on that field for Lifeline?
Okay, the Lifeline Academy has been operating for about 12 years, so about half the time of Lifeline in general. We opened it to train emergency medical technicians to the international standard. So much so that when we finished training them after 2 months, and then another 1.5 to 2 months internship, they're out of the country. They're flown literally all over the world. So we've got Lifeliners spread out from Europe to the Middle East, US, Canada. We can't train them fast enough, and we need to get more people trained. The reason why we set up the academy was to train our ambulance crew effectively, but to train our kasambahays and our co-workers also in the first aid side of it. It takes on average Lifeline about 12 minutes in Metro Manila from a time of call to the time of touchdown. That 12 minutes is critical. If we can train your household, your kasamas at home, we can train them how to do CPR, how to stop bleed, how to identify what's going on, and who to call. We've already half the battles already won. But it's that getting that message out. That's what the academy tends to do. We push outwards. We go to the homes. We go to the offices. We train both the employer, the employee, homeowner, and staff. Vice versa.
Well, that's great, because I do know that there's so many Filipinos, particularly retirees, elderlies, and families who relegate their loved ones to in the hands of a kasambahay or a the much abused term caregiver, because
Yeah.
the caregiver is usually a maid or a house boy or a driver, and they don't know the first things about the basic or the first thing about first aid, much less CPR. So
Right.
if people were to send their kasambahay, the maid, the boy, or the driver to the Lifeline Academy, how long does it take, and what sort of schedule? Because of course, I mean, it would help if they could take their how do you call it, their patient or their boss with them to observe. But generally, what is the process, Michael?
To make it easier and to avoid the I guess the excuses of not wanting to do it, we actually go to your home.
You're kidding
So
me. Come on.
if you call us up, yeah, that's how seriously we take the preventive emergency side of it. So we'll go to your house, ask you for everybody to join in, so everyone in the household, and if you've got neighbors, join it. The bigger the group, the better. We do one trainer to 10 people, and all we need is 5 to 6 hours. And that's with a big group, going through the theory side of it to the practical, so that everybody knows what they're doing. You're all living together. You all trust each other. Trust each other with the right skills.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are it's going to be your kasambahay who will find you when you need when you're in trouble, and vice versa. You'll be the one to find them. When you always say,
that's very true. Yeah, that's very true. Now, what's the price tag on all of this?
if it's groups of 10 to 20, we charge as low as 1,000 pesos per person, and we go to you.
Hey, that's not too bad. That's like watching a movie, eating a Jollibee or Burger King, and buying a big bottle of juice or something. So not that expensive.
Not at all. If it comes down to, it'll go as low for households, it's about 1,000 pesos per person. The more, the lower the price goes. And for the kids, because we've targeted the young teenagers, we call it bodyguard, similar to the advanced first aid and basic life support. But what we're doing is teaching them more of the emergencies that involve kids, what to look out for, drugs, alcohol, and sexual accidents. If you're going to be the designated driver in your group, why can't in your group you have a designated medic? Somebody who's looking out for the health of your group, of your team, your soccer team, your basketball team. That's not an official. That's not one of us. That's one of you. So they know who you are. They're partying with you. They're going out of town with you. We want to train them to be the bodyguards for your group.
Well, that's that's quite true. But why isn't this? I mean, do you guys do this only in Metro Manila, I presume?
No, we for the province, if we're not there, we do online. So we'll do it virtual. The only thing we cannot do is do the assessment over the internet.
Yeah.
We can only give just the theory side of it, But at least they know the basics of what to do and who to call when there's an emergency.
Okay.
It really comes down to that. It's simplifying the message and empowering. The more people that we empower, the faster we can save each other's lives when the time comes. If we take 12 minutes, if the world average is between 10 to 15 minutes in EMS, that's still a long time you're not breathing. If somebody's doing CPR on you, they're keeping you alive until we get there. And us vice versa, keeping you alive until we get to the hospital. The shorter the chain, the survival chain, the better your chances of survival.
Okay. Now, what about this new program? Or I saw on your Facebook page you were doing a new program. Is that the same thing that we're talking about, or is it something new?
This is the bodyguard.
Yeah, the bodyguard.
It's the same program, just branded differently. because we're specializing the bodyguard side of it on the kids. Let me give an example of an emergency that we get called for. Group of friends in a home, some of them are starting to dabble or experiment in drugs. Something goes wrong, there's a panic. They don't know who to call or what to do. What we're doing is reassuring, we're not the police. We're just here to save lives. If you get into trouble, call us, tell us what is wrong. Don't lie, don't exaggerate. It's just dangerous. That's the message we're trying to get across to the kids. Don't be embarrassed to call. If you're a member, it's all free of charge, regardless. So don't hesitate when you're not sure. Call for backup. If we've already taught you how to do CPR, you have an entire ambulance crew who'll guide you in what to do. If something happens to you, your family, or your friends. On the side where we're trying to push for the girls is to be careful of their drinks, the safety side of it. It's a preventive emergency. Date rape is on the rise. There have been incidents we talked earlier about the poisoning that has happened, in the clubs in Metro Manila. How do we handle it? Confidentially, it's between you and them. We just want the kids to know that they can call somebody that can respond. In our training of the bodyguards, we're training them to identify potential problems before they arise. For instance, if your friend's drinking too much, advise them already to stop drinking or slow down. In the same manner, if you see one of your girlfriends not in the right frame of mind, do not leave her alone in a room. Keep your wits about you.
Yeah, okay. Let's go for a quick break, Mike and Michael. And when we return, I'd like to discuss with you those proposed legislations filed by Senator Rafi Tulfo and Ejercito Estrada regarding nationalizing the EMS in the country. We'll be right back after a few reminders.
Seven years before the 2030 deadline to meet the Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs, the United Nations has called for accelerated funding to help the Philippines meet its goals in the areas of education, resilient infrastructure, and of course, healthcare. UN Philippines Resident Coordinator Gustavo Gonzalez admitted that there's still not enough capital that goes to the said sectors. With this in mind, Gonzalez called for a scale-up in financing sustainable development. For their part, Lifeline 16911 has been trying to help improve healthcare services in the country. Some of their initiatives include the EMS Academy and Bodyguard program, where one can learn the essential skills of first aid and basic life support. They also have their own airlift response that is suitable in times of dire need. What are the company's goals for 2024? Let's talk about that on today's agenda.
Okay, joining us once again is Mr. Mike. I almost called you Sir Michael Deakin. Your brother would have been really pissed off with me. Okay, Michael Deakin, head honcho of Lifeline here in the Philippines. Michael, first, is Lifeline purely a Philippine group, or do you have a mother company or a satellite company abroad?
No, this is homegrown Filipino.
Okay, well, proud of that.
1995.
Congratulations for your homegrown product. Now, I saw in the video where you have your own plane, and was I correct? Did I see a helicopter as well?
No, we don't. We subcontract the helicopters and the planes. It's the easiest way to be able to spread the load around the Philippines. So we've tied up with the independent flight instructors, pilots, and groups like ANAEC and the like.
Mm-hmm.
The priority is how fast can you get your helicopter or plane off the ground, because we can be there in 10 minutes, fully configuring your helicopter and plane.
Mm-hmm.
So if we get a call in Batangas, and there's traffic, we need to be able to fly them out. We can get a helicopter to you. It's just knowing the landing areas nearest you. That's the biggest trick in the Philippines. It's the landing area. It's not the fact that we cannot fly. We can fly anywhere in the Philippines anytime. It's landing. And at nighttime, there's still no flights at night for helicopters in particular.
Okay, so it would help for people. Okay, let's work that out right now. There are groups, there are people who travel a lot or who are located outside Metro Manila. Now, do you have an enrollment program, or is there like a group package? Like, for instance, Boracay, Siargao, tour destinations or retirement areas like Tagaytay. People have pointed out the fact that there is a serious lack of medical emergency response or airlifts. What can the business community, say in Boracay, do to have a working relationship with Lifeline and the availability of your subcontracted choppers and airplanes?
For a place like Boracay, and I've said this to quite a few people who were involved, Lifeline can do it for as low as 50 pesos per tourist that comes into the island, right? 50 pesos. We can cover all of the airlifts and emergency requirements for the island. That standby helicopter in Caticlan or on Boracay, plane as well, and all of the ambulance requirements to get you to and from the hospital, to and from the plane, all for 50 pesos per tourist. In Metro Manila, the way it works here, rather than going to the individual, like if we went to everybody in BGC or in Rockwell, it would take us decades. So we just went straight to the developer, and said we can do it for X amount. So over the last 28 years in Lifeline, we cover 5 million people in Metro Manila. And that's being paid by about 400 different providers that cover that 5 million. So the highway, it's San Miguel, it's Metro Pacific, tollways. Those are the ones who pay us directly to handle the motorists. That can be up to 7 to 8 per day.
But is that per incident? They pay you per incident? Or because, when you were saying 50 pesos per tourist in Boracay, okay, that can be in the landing fees or in the entry fees to the island. But
Right.
People will say, hey, come on, Michael, what are the chances of an accident happening within 1 year? Is there a better system like, okay, all the businesses will enlist and pay you X amount
Yes.
instead of tourists?
Yes, of course. And the easiest is the source of revenue to be able to pay the expenses. But that's the point, the tourist or the guest coming in. It takes a little longer when it comes to the developer, but it's the cheapest alternative. So what we do is we go to businesses, for instance, in a cluster in Batangas,
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just go to 2 or 3 resorts and a few bars and restaurants. And just their membership alone will cover an ambulance being in that area. So it's multiple people paying for 1 or 2 units within the area. That's how we can keep the prices low. And that's either business, homeowners, barangays. So we tailor make it to suit the environment.
Okay.
You mentioned Tagaytay.
Yeah.
Tagaytay Highlands, for instance, Hamilo Coast, all of the SM properties are covered by Lifeline directly via SM. Same with the malls, like Mall of Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than burdening their guests or their tourists, they've decided to, and have for decades, just have Lifeline paid by them exclusively 24/7 to stand by.
Okay. Well, the thing about Boracay or Siargao or all those other places, it does make sense because, I mean, for instance, in Boracay, there is a need for a speedboat team on the ground, a medical team, or maybe an EMS person full-time on the island in case of an emergency. He or she would be able to deal with the emergency immediately, then transport the patient from the island to the mainland, and then from the mainland to the airport, and the airport to the nearest hospital. So that is quite a sum of money or capital for equipment and personnel. So we're talking already about a 10-man team, including the pilots. So the 50 pesos per tourist, but that's just per head, not per day, right?
That's per head that comes in, and they're covered during that whole period.
Yeah, so like a person or a family that comes in, family of 3 or 5, they come in for a week. It's a one-time 50 peso for the 350 pesos, but they're covered in the event of any emergency.
Exactly right. Exactly right. We could tell you with extreme accuracy how many people are going to be in an accident within a given population. It's the rule of thumb worldwide is 3%. So if you get a village like Ayala Alabang, that has 5,000 homes, about 50,000 people, we know 3% of that is going to be in an accident in the next 12 months. We just don't know which one of them and in what ailment. But even down to how many heart attacks, strokes, car accidents, suicides, we can break that down statistically. So they were prepared. When it comes to the tourists entering into the Philippines, Boracay, Siargao, the biggest expense is the capex needed to set it up. But once it's set up, the way to pay it back at the lowest price point, so it's sustainable, is at the business or the tourist level, and bring it down to the very, very lowest point. And Siargao, we've looked at it saying, all the businesses got together, we could turn around and put together a helicopter, fixed wing rescue package, and urgent care clinic on the island.
But talk about the urgent care clinic. Let's say on Boracay or on Siargao and other. I mean, there are many other places in the Philippines. And can you talk about that urgent care clinic on site? What's involved? What does it take to run it? How much is required?
Well, okay, for let's say Siargao, we need an urgent care clinic of at least 300 square meters to be able to. Think of it as a small emergency room.
Okay.
We need to be able to admit them or discharge them within 12 hours. No more than that. No more than 12 hours. So it's either discharge, you're okay, go home, or we need to bring it to the hospital. That's urgent care.
You need to stabilize them before transporting them.
That's right. So it's just on an island on remote while you're waiting. The most important will be those few minutes after the accident, and then the care waiting for an ambulance or an airlift to be able to pick you out. So that 1 hour, the golden hour, is crucial. With urgent care clinics that are in those areas, we can train the local for the EMS side of it. It's the doctors that will have to come in, And in Boracay, they do it on rotation. There's one doctora there that's been doing it for years. she gets all her groups of friends to come in. And it's basically you're on call for, let's say, a week, and you're going to have a free holiday for another week. It's easy to set up. The capex is not that much, but it is always the last thing to do. That when you Surigao should have had an emergency care so with Boracay decades ago, not just now because the tourists are coming in. There were accidents always happening in these areas. It's just it's more top of mind because there's more accidents, more tourists getting into accidents. So that makes any sense.
So, would it make sense to have a floating urgent care facility that can immediately transport you while treating you? Because I don't know. I don't know the science of it. I'm like, hey, put him on the boat and let's go. And you treat him on the boat while we're trying to get him to the airport as soon as possible.
Exactly. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what an ambulance does. That's what we would do on an airlift. On the boat side of it, that's a little outside our specialty in regards to we know how to do the water rescues. We just don't know how to drive the boats. Like in regards to save the planes. So that's the collaboration we need with the resorts, with the islands. Is that kind of working together. Because we can, I believe, in the Philippines with 7,200 islands, have one of the best emergency responses in Asia. And it's just a matter of setting it up correctly. We've got the people, we've got the knowledge. We just need the willpower. We just need everyone to align. The hospitals, the government, and private receiving them when they're in an emergency. How you activate a flight at night. If the airline like Surigao, you cannot land at night, at least on a helicopter. So it defeats the 12-hour period. Those urgent care clinics are going to be needed more and more as the resorts and as the islands develop.
Okay, let's go for one last quick break. And when we return, let's tackle how you see the government or all of us developing that multi-island critical care system and emergency response. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Welcome back to your program Agenda, and with us continuing our conversation regarding emergency medical response and the need to set up those things all over the country in 7,000 plus islands. We have with us President and CEO of Lifeline 16911 Medical Inc., none other than our friend Michael Deakin. Michael, let's get on with the conversation. We were talking about the need to set up EMS all over the Philippines, and you said we have everything that's needed to do it. how come we're not yet doing it? And what about the bill submitted by Tulfo and Ejercito?
Those bills have been floating around for years. I've been with Lifeline 23, 24 years now. And it's been pending and reviewed by so many people, we don't even know what it looks like anymore. But the objective behind the EMS bill is to maintain the standard, the standard of response, the standard of care. We help with the DOH, for instance, with the licensing of ambulances by creating what is an ambulance, the definition of the word ambulance, and now there's a license required for you to have the word ambulance. The EMS bill will help the Philippines, not just locally, considering for the last 30 years, the amount of EMTs that we send outside the Philippines to work, all over the world, shows that we can do it. The infrastructure is there. The will is there. We just need the political will, that side of it, to be able to get things moving faster and be able to cover us. Without a pre-existing bill, it doesn't make what we do. There's no guideline to what we do. We just have to benchmark either ourselves locally here or internationally. We choose to benchmark internationally, but it becomes expensive.
Okay, now you mentioned about sending EMTs or emergency medical technicians abroad. Now, how long is the training for that certification?
Internationally, the requirements were a high school diploma. You do a 2-month, 3-month course, on a technical college as an EMT, and you do another 2 months in the back of an ambulance. That's the international standard. So in 4 months, you can get a basic license to be able to perform an emergency medical technician's task. Over the years, you start to pick up the courses to become a paramedic, right? That usually takes about 4 to 5 years. We have the system here. We just don't have it for the local environment. That's where we need to be able to get this bill passed so that we can start pushing the standards precisely so that the Philippines can elevate up. We export a lot of our nurses overseas. We're now suffering a brain drain. But I believe in it. You can't stop them because they paid their own education, they paid their own way. But I believe that we should be paying them to go to school. We should be recruiting at a high school level. In EMS, we do recruit at that level because we're following the international, where we've trained high school students in the Philippines who are now EMTs in Europe. High school graduates. Yet in the Philippines, we won't even allow them in the door to be a janitor without a college degree.
Exactly. And it is so discriminatory that poor kids in the barrios who are well able to speak good English and are intelligent can't get jobs when you and the other companies can train them to become emergency medical technicians.
Right. And literally getting jobs on the back of just a EMT certificate from Lifeline and a high school diploma. We've had jeepney drivers who are working in Europe, who have come through Lifeline. We hired them to drive our ambulances. They know the roads, they know how to drive. We just happen to train all our staff as EMTs as well, and they're out and they're gone, and to us, it's great. We're very proud of them.
Were you consulted? Were you ever consulted when those bills were crafted?
Many, many years ago, with Secretary Ted on the side of regarding minimum standards, a lot of it to do with the ambulance standards and policies. So that became the DOH administrative order on the use of the word ambulance. That the other part of the bill is on the political side of it is how and who pays what. So if Quezon City has so many ambulances, you have a national number, 911. But when you call 911, it is free, but it's also the service is supposed to be free. That's where nobody knows who pays, so nobody responds. So if you're calling up 911, it's a national number, but they call up Quezon City or Alabang or Parañaque, And if they don't have the asset, they can't respond. Who else do you call? And if I call another city, who pays that city? That's where it becomes very complicated in regards to how do you structure it.
So they're all together under Metro Manila, under the MMDA. They're all united. But when it comes to footing some bill or helping in an emergency, it's a man for himself.
Well, it's very expensive. I mean, the easiest thing to do is buy an ambulance. The hardest thing to do is actually operate it. You know, it's a 24/7 machine that has a life of its own that needs a lot of care and a lot of attention. Because when you need anything from it at a moment's notice, it needs to be able to deliver. You know, and that's what we see that it lacks here. You know, you've got assets to buy. The government will buy their own assets, but how do you maintain it? How do you keep it up to date?
And I see so many of those vehicles, past and present, that have been junked, left in the street near the barangay halls all over the country because they don't know how to do maintenance.
That's right. That's right. And yet we've got ambulances here that are 20 years old, you know, from the U.S., straight from the highways in California, and they're still operating because we maintain it correctly. But it costs a lot of money to do that.
Okay, we're about to run out of time here. Michael, anything as far as your Christmas wish is concerned, my friend?
For the Philippines, I hope that the Congress and the Senate pass the bill, the EMS bill. You know, for everybody else, please be safe over Christmas. I don't want to have pick you up in December. Let's wait till January, you know, when you hit the gyms.
Okay. That is so dark, my friend. Have fun over Christmas. We'll pick you up in January. Okay. Thank you very much, Michael Deakin, and please stay safe. And we hope that the favor of the Lord will always be upon you, upon Lifeline and your team, that people in authority will come to understand, even the businesses and the communities come to understand that money we can earn, but lives we need to save. It shouldn't be the other way around. People save money and forget about saving lives. Thank you, Michael Deakin. God bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's Michael Deakin, President and CEO, Lifeline 16911. Please remember that. And I'm not being a genius here, but we save money and forget about lives. And as Michael pointed out, we're all going to be celebrating in Christmas, and everyone's worried about diet, about health, and end up killing themselves in January, repenting from their sins. Money we can earn, we can make, but lives we need to save. So let's go to our blessing for the week. And Gab, it is from the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verses 4 to 5. I sought the Lord, and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. Those who look to him are radiant. Their faces are never covered with shame. I do hope that you are going to have a well-managed weekend. Easy on the booze. Be careful on the fatty foods. But more importantly, and I repeat this, more importantly, be careful about the stress and the worries. If you have to worry about giving gifts, if it has to become a problem, then don't. Because gift giving is from the abundance of your heart and of your resources. It shouldn't be a burden and a loss. Thank you. Please keep Team Agenda on your in your prayers, and please keep it here on One News.